Welcome, everyone, to the Tron podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods. Today, I have a very special guest from the lovely state of Minnesota, a graduate of the University of Minnesota, Miss Marisa Simonetti. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it's Marisa Simonetti.
Oh, did I?
With an S. Not like the Mother Mary, the Catholic Maria.
I said Marisa, didn't I?
Yeah, maybe you did. Maybe I misheard you.
Yeah, I thought I said Miss Marisa. My wife's name is Marisa, so it's two S's though. That's the only difference.
Really?
Yeah, so I certainly, I don't think I butchered that. Maybe when I said Miss and Marisa together, it kind of sounded kind of one wordish. So my apology.
Well, we're gonna get along great then.
So first of all, how is the weather doing up in lovely Minnesota?
This is the first we've had where it's not freezing cold.
Nice.
And it's really nice. The snow is finally starting to melt. My son and I got out and threw some snowballs, and we got in trouble yesterday.
Did you really?
I got a disorderly conduct for throwing snowballs with my son.
Seriously?
We'll get into that later. But yeah.
Wow. Talk about a national pastime. That's terrible. That's like
throwing some snowballs.
That's nuts.
Yep.
So, so you seem to, obviously you're heavily involved in politics. I saw that as well too. But, first of all, I want to find out, how did you go from graduating from University of Minnesota? What made you go into politics?
So my plan when I went back to finish my degree, I'm 31, I'll be 32 this year, was to go to law school. So I took the LSAT, started applying to law schools. And around March of around this time last year, the conversation I had with a friend, and there was a special election for Hennepin County Commissioner. And you ever know, like in your spirit, where you're like, I don't know what the heck this is, but I'm supposed to go this way? Have you ever had that?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and you just trust your intuition and you go. So it was one of those things, and I filed one day before the deadline, jumped in, and that was my first experience ever actually in politics.
Okay.
So regardless of who won that race, I would have had to run again in November.
Right.
And I did very well. There were 6 candidates. I placed top 2 for the final runoff, and then I only lost by 1,000 votes.
Okay.
Against a current state rep with name recognition. So I was like, I think I can do this.
Right.
And that's how I got jumped in.
So how big is the community that you're in to lose by 1,000? Is like, obviously, for your first time, really like unprepared, I don't want to say unprepared, but just kind of spur of the moment, more or less. Like, was it a large county where you sit back and say that's only a certain amount of percentage? What was the size of the community you were in? So
Hennepin County has 7 different districts. Mine was the 6th. There were 128,000 registered voters. In the special election, only about, and this is sad, only about, I think 15,000 people showed up. Okay. Yeah, because we were the only 2 on the ballot. So what it really came down to was good marketing and name recognition. And she had name recognition, and it was a nonpartisan race, but people kind of choose sides regardless. For sure. I learned a lot about different parties' marketing effectiveness and ability to outreach to voters during that time. Right.
Do you find it, so obviously I saw you're really big on social media, right? So that's like, it's crazy. So I was like, okay, yeah, she's really active, and it's, do you find yourself more effective reaching constituents, grassrooting it, or going through actually social media, kind of where people have been fed information for the last really like 5-10 years?
Yeah, I did a combination of things because it was people who were really into politics who showed up for the special election. I just jumped in and I was speaking at BPOUs, local Senate district events, congressional district events. I was given a lot of opportunities where you got to just jump and take it, right? You can't second guess yourself. You can't be scared. You got to do it. And I think it's a combination of both, but with my social media, a lot of stuff is just contentious and arguing. I've shifted my focus to just trying being a little more light and having fun. That's more fun to me. I kind of want to have fun and be silly and throw some snowballs and I can get the job done. I can figure things out. I have business experience, but let's have fun doing it.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I created the Tron podcast, because everybody has an interesting story to tell and a walk of life that was kind of on the road less traveled, right? Like that old quote, they took the road less traveled. So that's why I wanted to sit back and say, okay, some very interesting people. And then your profile, I was glad that you messaged me, because I was like, I haven't seen really this before, as far as this perspective, point of view. And then when you said that you ran for congressional districts and running for seats, I expected when I checked your social media profile to see like traditional like politician stuff. And then I'm like, she's handing out pizzas, she's at the gym. I'm like, this was totally 180 of what I thought I was gonna see, which was really cool, because then you're not, it's like, okay, this person's a person, right?
Yeah.
And they're having fun, they're laughing, they're joking, they're helping the homeless, and I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. So when we handed out pizzas to the homeless, my friend owns that's called OG Zaza, and he owns a local pizza restaurant. A couple of them, such good pizza. And he randomly texted me the one day. He was like, "Hey, we're going out to feed the homeless. You want to come along?"
Right.
And I was like, "Yeah, I've got an afternoon. That'll be fun. Connect with your
For sure.
friends and like do some good. Let's go."
Of course.
And so Josh, the other Josh, I didn't know him yet. And he has a huge social media following. I think 9 million on TikTok, 4.4 million on Instagram. And that's what he does. He goes and he like goes to restaurants and collaborates with them and hands out food regularly to the homeless or
Nice.
flowers
Beautiful.
to elderly.
Yeah.
And so then when my video dropped, that's when I had no idea, but I started, just skyrocketing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. I didn't even go check his channel after the fact. I'm like, we're just doing nice
You
things.
just-
See you
yeah,
later.
yeah. And then lo and behold, right. And that's what, because it was the first thing that pulled up. And like, it's funny because I was watching, I was like, okay, because you're kind of waiting for like a catch. Every video you're thinking but no, that was ultimately it. And I was like, wow, that's really, really sweet. And I was like, it was touching, and good deeds, are very well done. I'm sure he does a lot of good things. And, I'm sure that
Yes.
inspired you in a way like, that's a really, like, to have 9 million followers, that's incredible. And the work that he does to help homeless and older people,
Yes.
who are in tough times, that's invaluable things to do.
It speaks to like what people really want, I think.
Right.
Is like more kindness. It's like the world, I feel like I was talking with somebody recently. You don't know how like if you just smile at somebody or do like one little thing to be
100%.
kind, you
100%.
change their day.
100%.
But on a funny note, did you read any of the comments on that video?
I didn't see that specifically. I watched it a couple
Okay.
days ago, so I didn't see the comments. No.
Okay. I'm cute. So you can imagine where this is going. I think the top most liked comment was, "I usually skip this part."
Oh my goodness.
So you gotta have fun, right? I
Right.
love joking. I don't take offense. I have a thick
For sure.
skin.
For
And
sure.
like a lot of social media is about being silly. And like I notice a competition to have the funniest comment, right? People want to
Right.
have the funniest comment, the most likes. And I like that kind of fun, playful competition. Like bring it on.
I think what it's given a lot of voices to people who normally didn't have it. It's allowed people to connect to people, and it's allowed more similar interested people to connect in real time than it ever has been before. I would have never have talked to you prior to this podcast simply because of time, distance, and you do your
Yeah.
thing and I'm doing my thing. So I found it very fascinating to be able to talk to you. So I got a couple questions that I have for you. Number one, have you always lived in Minnesota? Like, have you always Minnesota born and raised?
So I've been in Minnesota since 2013. Grew up in Pennsylvania.
Okay. 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 Any particular reason to move? Just move with parents and things like that, or just personal move?
Well, it was another one of the things, just like running for county commissioner, where my
Mhm.
dad's job got transferred. I could have stayed, but again, that feeling in your heart where you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
No logical reasons. I said I'm supposed to go to Minnesota, and I went and haven't looked back.
And see, the thing is about it too. What's interesting about that is that a lot of people hesitate and then they get in their own head, right? And you're
Yeah.
just like, I'm just gonna go ahead and let the chips fall where they may. And you seem
Yeah.
like the type of personality that when you've made up your mind that you want to do something, you go ahead and you do it, right?
Yeah. I think God also like speaks to us super gently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that's amazing because I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't see anything that indicated that you had lived out of state before. Have you written in like any books about about your life and the things that you do? Like, have you ever thought about kind of like serializing that or anything like that?
I haven't thought about writing any books. I really have fun including people in real time in the story on social media. I'm going to be shifting to like a little bit more maybe silly, playful, light, just
Yeah.
like flowing with my personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't considered that.
Okay. Okay. No, I thought that was kind of, because it seems like you
Yeah.
have so much material that I thought that would be the next logical, at least from the outside looking in.
I'm flattered. That's really sweet. Yeah, I
No,
haven't thought about
yeah.
it.
Yeah, you're really active on social media. So tell me a little bit about, you're in real estate too as well, right?
Yeah, so my background before I went back to finish my degree at the U, I graduated last year. Throughout my 20s, I worked in social media, content creation, and then just leveraged that income to purchase property.
Right.
So that was my vision. I wanted freedom of my time. I'm a single mom
Right.
and needed to be able to create a lifestyle that worked.
Right.
So that's what I did. I've gotten rental property throughout my 20s.
So I was always curious about this because when it comes to is there a conflict of interest when a politician has business interest in a particular field, and not just yours respectively, But if like just in general, like if they own party stores, if they own real estate, if they, I mean, a lot of politicians come
Yeah.
from business backgrounds. But is there anything that kind of can conflict with the job titles and descriptions that somebody could hold in office?
Yeah, that's interesting. We're seeing like when they're going and cleaning everything out, people with salaries of like 200 and some thousand, but they're worth like what, 38, 138 million. How
Right,
does
right.
that happen? So somebody's got conflict of interest. And even the job I ran for, one of the people I beat out in the primary, I spent less than $750.
Mm-hmm.
He spent $71,000 to lose on a
Wow.
job to lose on a job that pays $120,000 a year. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you're laughing because there's some secret benefit that they're
Yeah.
getting.
Right, right, right,
They're
right.
deducting.
Yeah, like that would be the worst losing hand in Vegas, right?
Yes, yes. I had
You
my
know,
stop loss point. I'm like, I'm not, in my heart, I can't ask people to invest more than X amount, right? I got
right,
to have X results, more a business mindset.
for sure.
So we're required to file a statement of economic interest, which outlines our assets.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, everybody, you just look at some of these bills and stuff that snuck in that there's tons of hokey pokes going on
and that's
everywhere.
not just a Minnesota thing, right? That's obviously irrespective across the board. Because I was just curious. I
Yeah.
said, because then they always make there's disclosure forms. There's all sorts of things like that. And again, that's not per se that I'm asking about you specifically, but just the system as a whole. No, I'm just
Yeah.
generally curious.
Yeah. Yep.
You know.
Yep. Tons of hokey pokes.
So, what else do you do outside of politics and social media?
Yeah, so I'm a mom. I do politics. I've had my OnlyFans page, and this is the one thing that kind of got me in a little bit of trouble
Okay.
throughout the campaign.
Okay.
And that caused me to shift my marketing and branding.
Yeah.
But there's more and more people who are involved in OnlyFans or content creation. And I think just because two things haven't been seen together before doesn't
Right.
mean that they can't be done or someone can't be involved in their community. So, yeah, I hate seeing people who have any sort of past or whatever, like just written off for their future in any capacity. Like, you feel you're supposed to go do something, believe in yourself, go do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find it more of a generational thing when it comes to having something like that, where maybe people of a certain age or I don't want to say just in general background are less accepting of something of that than they would say the newer, younger voters that are like, hey man, it doesn't no skin off my back, easy peasy, keep it moving. I care about what person does for me while they're in the job.
Yeah, people, exactly what you said. People who can focus on what the job actually impacts and the
Mm-hmm.
real issues.
Mm-hmm.
Like county commissioner was purely a financial job. I have
Right.
business background.
Right.
I'm good at that kind of thing. But
Correct.
everybody's chasing the red herring that has nothing to do with it. But that's a lot of politics, is just like rage baiting, emotion baiting, and
Right.
that's why I'm just having fun, because that will suck your soul so badly. Like, do
Well,
you
it's
see that? Like, you see these just hate posts, and you're like, you don't even want to participate.
Well, and the thing is about it, like, obviously this is about you, not me. But one of the reasons I created the Tron podcast is because I'm not a political show. I have zero interest, like, and I have zero interest in debating what God somebody worships. I have zero interest in debating what somebody's, preference, sexually wise is. I have zero interest in finding out, hey, what's this speech that just got gave today? Let's dissect this. Like, that's a very, very, I want to say, flashpoint late way to live, and you're chasing clickbaits, right? You're chasing clickbaits. It's like, right, it really is. And so, but there's no substance to it. And so you're being your authentic self. You're telling me about your journey, how you became who you are. This is, I know it sounds like a cliche. It's literally the safe space to just talk about what you've accomplished and how
Yeah.
you became you. And that's what I care about on this show. I'm a big fan of Discovery, big fan of History Channel. This is just that medium where it's like curiosity crosses all boundaries.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what my focus is. So did you run into any ageism issues when you were running for political office? Because there's a certain age that you're supposed to.
Yeah, I definitely don't look like the typical candidate. There are a couple attractive ones. I think, like, what is it? Anna Paulina Luna, AOC. Like,
Yeah.
let's get some hot girls.
So because
And
right, because I'm just curious, like, because like unfortunately people have preconceived notions that they may not take you seriously based upon who you're not supposed to be here, or you're supposed to be here when you've done everything else in life, and kids are grown, and then you're supposed to run for political office, right? Like,
yeah.
so
So I guess maybe that question I don't totally comprehend, because here's how I think. I know I have the ability. I have solved some huge problems in my life, and
Yeah,
I have the ability to figure. You can throw me in the middle of anywhere, and I can
yeah.
figure anything out.
That's kind of along the
So
lines I was getting. Yeah,
yeah. So I know that, and I
mhm,
know that I carry that energy. So whatever excuses like maybe other people may have, I just like doesn't even resonate with me. I'm
for
like,
sure,
okay, well, have a good one, right? I
absolutely.
can do it. And you just carry on.
What's the size of a team that you need when you run a congression when you run for office? Like, how many people does a candidate need?
Oh, there are I had a lot of people who
Yeah.
supported me in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's just somebody who, rather than an official team, like when I got started,
Mhm.
the one guy who was running for CD3,
Yeah.
he had a 20-minute phone call with me.
Right.
He had been county commissioner before, and
Yeah.
he sat down and he ran through all the issues with me. And that's when I started wrapping my head around everything.
Right.
And
Right.
I
Right.
literally just took notes on everything he said for 20
Right.
minutes. And
Got it.
it's that little generosity of pointing you in the right direction. I
Okay.
had someone who helped me out with my signs, people who gave me opportunities to speak at events, who put me up
Right.
on stage. Like it's little kindnesses that like I think and I appreciate, and I know who those people are, and I feel thankful.
Yeah, I know it's
Yeah.
a mixture of staff and volunteers and everything like that. And I'm sure a lot
Yeah.
of people are very honored just to get involved, just to be able to hear their name called, and
Yeah.
ultimately it affects their lifestyle, and where they live at.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people help putting signs out, doing all kinds of things, and yeah, people love to be a contribution and get behind feeling like they're making a difference.
Right.
So,
Fantastic.
yeah. But I'm
What's
just a
the
person. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So what are the pressing, like, your community? I've never been to it. So what exactly are the businesses around like that? What's the needs of the constituents that you service around there, or we're trying to service when you ran for office and you're ultimately going to do again?
Yeah, so I'm going to run for a different position in 2026. I'm
Right.
going to do something statewide. And I'm
Right.
not telling anyone what it is, but I know what I'm doing.
Right. 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 Right.
When I did Hennepin District 6, what that job does is they finance the sheriff's department, justice system, county corrections, libraries, things like that.
Got it.
So yeah, people just want things run efficiently, but the biggest, most pressing thing was dealing with crime. Like people feel some of that stuff has gotten out of control. And there's some really good community based groups that get, I think, more to the root cause in a gentler way.
Yeah.
Um, that I really, really liked and resonated with.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because they all say that these things are very local, right? So that here you are, you're a resident of the community trying to help the best people best in the position of your community that you're in right now. So best of wishes to you for when you decide to have further aspirations as well too. So when you got into real estate, like, and was that before you were pursuing law, or what? How did that time frame all work itself up?
Yeah, so that was in my early 20s. I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by
Okay.
Robert Kiyosaki,
Yeah.
and that changed my mindset. My mom's a was a stay-at-home mom. She homeschooled all of us, and my dad's a
Yeah.
mechanical engineer. So I had the mindset of go to school, get a good job, and
Right.
that opened up my mind to doing something a little different. And you bumble along, you're young, you
Of
make
course.
some
100%.
mistakes, you figure things out. But I knew that that was always going to be a part of things, and I going back to I to finish my degree was again kind of one of those promptings that I felt. And
Yeah.
I at the time last May I had to decide, am I going to go to law school? I've been accepted, or
Yeah.
am I going to run for county commissioner? Because as a single mom who works, like I knew just being in finishing my bachelor's degree how time intensive that was. I was
Right.
like, I can't do everything.
For sure.
So
For sure.
I have to pick which way I'm going to go. And you can always go back to law school. If I can get accepted once,
Yeah.
I
Right.
can
Right.
get
Right.
accepted again. You got your LSAT score, but you believe in yourself, right? You're like, this
Absolutely.
is the way I'm going to go, and I'm going to jump, and I'm going to make it work.
Yeah,
So
so yeah, my brother actually, he's a licensed attorney. There's nothing that can convince me to take the LSAT, right? Pursue that, because the studying he had to put himself through, whew, it's
yeah,
a beast. It's an absolute monster.
yep,
So when you're posting on social media, right, and you're like I said, I was going through all your clips, and you are active, right, and a
yeah,
lot of it is a lot of funny stuff. Like, you say very inspiring words too. You're at the gym. You say make sure that you surround yourself with people that are pulling you forward, that are kind of showing you the light. It's very inspirational items. Where did that attitude and mindset come from you?
Yeah, I try and be a positive person. I'm like anybody else. Sometimes you get down on yourself and
Yeah,
feeling
yeah.
like a sad sack, but you gotta always reorient. So yeah, stuff's gonna happen like in life, but you just keep it moving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Find fun, find the happy, the positive.
Right, and I'm sure that I'm sure the realm of politics is probably one of the reasons why you make sure to keep a very positive attitude because again, there's lots of things that can drag you down, in life and in society as well too. And it was not the typical quote unquote politician profile that I saw when I clicked on some of your items as well too. So I was
Yeah.
yeah, seeing you interactive and doing the things that you were doing, I thought that was a lot of fun as well too.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you got into real estate, right? What's the learning curve that you had to learn to get into real estate?
I think the most challenging thing with anything is like marketing and finding the right type of people. So I'm not a licensed agent. I have rental property. I don't want to get my real estate license. I don't see myself going down that path.
Right.
But the biggest challenge, ultimately I wanted to own apartment buildings.
Hmm.
And one, there's a huge financial barrier to entry. You got to
Right.
have, let's say if it's just $1 million, you got to have 200,000. I was like, okay, well, I don't have that.
Right.
And then you got to be able to find the property. You got to know how to manage it so you don't run it into the ground. There's so many things. And
Right.
what I've learned is to connect with good people who already know how to do. And
Mhm.
then they have X and I have Y. And you just systematically build up the pieces and create a win win.
And you marry
So,
together, yeah.
yeah, that took some time.
So when people do have those barriers of entry, and it could discourage a lot of people who wanted to get into it. For example, they could sit back and say, "Well, I would always like to do that, but financially, that's out of my reach." They've already quote unquote given before they've started. What do you tell people who are trying to make an entryway into it? Ultimately, it is lucrative, but it has a lot of upfront cost involved with it.
Yeah. I mean, so my first like actual investment was 2019 and I had made a business mistake, a bad business partnership in 2017 and lost a lot of money. And so I had to restart from scratch, right? In my 20s, I had just found out I was pregnant, found
Yeah,
out I'm like negative dollars. I'm like, man, this sucks. So I considered it. I was like, what am I going to do differently here? And even though I still like I paid back, the things that I had incurred, but
hmm
as part of that, and Robert Kiyosaki talks about this, is paying yourself first.
right.
And I always put aside a certain percentage off the top every single month and based on what I could do. And I like pay really close attention to it. And that is
Okay.
how I was able to, from 2017, from like starting from rock bottom to
Right.
then November 2019, I did my first little thing is part of my restarting phase. And
Mhm.
then once you do the first one, you go.
Get
Like
it.
you
You're right.
just
You
got to
got
do
some
the first
momentum
one.
in it.
Yeah. Like get that thing started. Believe in yourself. Like it's going to suck and it's going to feel like super disappointing, but just get the first one.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like the whole mindset of martial arts. I don't, I have no idea if you take it or not, but I did martial arts, right? And the slogan for martial arts is "Embrace the suck," right? Because the reality about it is that somebody standing there with a high ranking, whether it's first dan or black belt that they call it,
Yeah.
they didn't just bring it, they didn't just buy it off a shelf, right? Like it took a lot of disappointment, a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of things that you had to work for. So that's great that you've applied that really to looks like to all avenues of your life as well too. So
Yeah.
how how do you what, like, I know you work out, I know you do. Is there anything like outside of that you're just like, I'm just gonna have fun, let my hair down, and be me, like my
Yeah.
unapologetic self?
Yeah. Last weekend I went Latin dancing.
Really? How was that? Was that
Yeah.
the first time you did it?
No, I've danced. I learned to dance when I moved here in Minnesota. Salsa, bachata, merengue, cumbia, kizomba, all of it.
Oh my goodness.
And that, when you're out on the dance floor,
Yeah.
there was a live band.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a positive, wholesome environment. It's not like kind of like it's not clubbing, right? Everybody's
Right.
there
If
to
they're
have a
serious
fun.
about, yeah.
Yes, and it's just such a beautiful thing. And even just going out, like my son and I, we went and we probably shouldn't have done this, but we were throwing snowballs, little snowballs at cars. They drew and some people were cheering, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
USPS guy, he had his big truck, and you see him inside. He's like,
Oh
"Yeah,
yeah, because kids don't play outside anymore, right? They don't do that anymore.
snow," and
Yeah,
it's half melted, right? There's no ice chunks. We're
yeah.
just some people laughed. One lady called the cops on us. I got a disorderly conduct ticket. I was just filming
You
and
kidding me?
laughing. I had my 7-year-old was throwing snowballs, and I got a disorderly conduct ticket for laughing.
Wow.
We got it. We got this lady on camera. The snowball just rolled down her window to yell at us, and my son chuckled it. And it flies in, and you see her hair in the camera go, boom.
Well, first of all, I'm glad she didn't crash her car or anything like that. But
She stopped to yell.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm just like, fun and being
Yeah.
silly. Like I'm a silly goose. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a testament to long life because you're probably going to live very long because your sense of humor and your ability to just joke and laugh and have a good time because ultimately that's what this life is all about. And as long as you don't take yourself too seriously, life can be very grand, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's I'm trying to find the proper words to say this. This Tron podcast has allowed me to talk to people from all walks of life. Their success, their trajectory, even the in between, the silly little stories that may seem trivial. You throwing your snowball with your son is one of the most that is something that I wouldn't have got a chance to hear even an hour ago, right? Like a politician from Minnesota, real estate, single mom graduate, overcome very hard life obstacles, and it's an honor to be able to have you on the show. Do you have any questions for me?
What got you into martial arts?
Yeah, well, this is kind of funny. So I'll backtrack a little bit. I'll date myself. I'm 42, right? So no shame in that. We all want to get older. So when I was like 7 years old, like I played basketball, and so my brother was into Taekwondo, and so I did that a little bit on the side, like right, but I wasn't passionate about it. But I did it like I just kind of went through the motions because your parents are trying to put you in activities, but I was focusing on basketball. Well, flash forward, I peak at 5'8", right? So basketball at 16, 17 is not happening. I go to college, and then I get bored my first semester in college, right? Like, you're just like, I'm going to class. I mean, you went to college, right? Like, it gets very redundant, and then you find yourself when you're doing halfway decent in classes, you have a lot of free time on your hands. So I was like, I'm going to go back into martial arts. So then I got back into martial arts in college. Did 4 years of Taekwondo. I did some tournaments all around the state of Michigan as well, too, which was really cool. I won a gold medal at one of our regional tournaments in Lansing, which is the capital. It was really cool.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So then flash forward, then life happens, you start realizing the stomach's going out a little bit more rather than staying, flat. And you're like, yeah, man, I kind of let myself go like 10, 12 years later. I'll summarize this really quick. Got back into it. Tung Sudo, which is similar to Taekwondo, both South Korean. Ended up getting my black belt about 3 years ago. And now I've also started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I do Muay Thai as well, too. So it's a love of labor, and you meet great people.
Yeah.
The people that you get a chance to meet, probably similar to people that are in your salsa and dancing classes, stuff like that. People who just want to have fun and be better of themselves.
Yes.
So
yeah,
I love it. I absolutely love martial arts.
that's a lot of discipline to be that consistent.
Yeah,
To win a gold, I mean, that doesn't happen by accident.
Well, I want to be. Let's compartmentalize the tournament that I win. For people who are listening, I didn't win no junior Olympic. I didn't win no Olympic, but it was a tournament. At a regional level for people, from various different schools that all came to Michigan. So it was, it was cool because I won my weight class. And the trophy's still in my house. And, every once in a while you'd be like, yeah, man, I can kind of kick a little bit of butt, man. And, you kind of give yourself that little tap on the shoulder. So, nothing like running for state office, though,
Well, here's a question I have. How many fights do you think you've avoided because you know how to fight?
Quite a bit, because everybody has a gun.
Oh, does everybody have a gun in Michigan?
Well, just in general and as a whole, right? There's a lot of gun owners in Michigan. But then, second of all, first of all, the key with martial arts is that about avoiding confrontation.
Yeah.
Because the second thing that goes in your mind is you can usually the loudest person is usually the person that can't fight, right? It's the quiet person, right? And I'm sure you've ran into that in life. And then the second thing about it is nobody wants to, this is the YouTube era. You don't want to get beat up, and it's all over you. I'm just keeping it real. I don't want to get beat up and then oh yeah, that's me getting served again, So, and then honestly, and this is the God's honest truth, when you train enough, the most nondescript individual is a very good martial artist. I'm talking there's guys who look like accountants, guys who look like bookkeepers, women who, are 5 foot nothing and weigh 125 nothing. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. When I was in college, I was doing Taekwondo, and I did the judo club for like a semester right before I graduated. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with judo. It's where they toss and throw. Right. So it's a very, very, it's the father of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So like Ronda Rousey did judo, where they armbar you, they throw you, all that stuff, right? So I never did that style before. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this just to get uncomfortable. So I did a semester, right? And I'll never forget, my second or third day, there's a guy, right? Looked like 150 pounds soaking wet. Turns around, puts on his brown belt. He's like 2 belts away from a black belt. And I'm like, no. And I'm bigger than this guy. And I mean, I got tossed like a rag doll. like just got absolutely crushed.
Did
And
it
like,
hurt?
oh, physically I was tore up apart because he's just
Yeah.
picking me up and just throwing me across, arm barring me, right? I'd never done judo. So word to the wise, who anybody who trained, never judge a book by its cover. Never.
Yeah. Some of these, they're sleepers. Some of
Oh,
these guys are sleepers.
oh yeah. I've trained with people who, I don't know how they put what they did to me. And that's the reality about martial arts is anybody who says they never got their bell rung, anybody who says they've never been choked out, anybody who says they've never been cracked is lying to you. They're completely lying to you. Or they didn't train hard. It's just the fact of the matter. You're going to get hit or you're going to get put to sleep. And you better learn to do it. And you better bring that ego down a few notches, leave it at the door, and get ready to, to feel a little bit of pain, maybe even discomfort. But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. It seems, do you have some business? It seems like from reading between the lines, you have some business experience.
Not exclusively, right? I got a really good friend who's a very successful entrepreneur, but this podcast is about growth and ultimately when you see people across your world can't just be your zip code. Your world can't just be your county. It can't even be just your state line. There are so many stories that are so intricately told that if you can put yourself in a position, I believe, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to critique. I'm here to listen and learn and ultimately bring this podcast up to where I hope it will be in the process.
You've got a vision and you're consistently working it.
Yeah, because I'm just, and this is more about you than me, but since we're just chatting here, I think that there's enough BS to get yourself into that this podcast is trying to avoid that. Because like if people want to, throw pies at each other for 2 hours, then go turn to that channel. Like straight up, go turn to that channel. Don't come here.
I just want to know if I and a cute little boy threw a snowball at you, would you?
No, not at all. Just like don't hit my kids, right? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just keeping it like let's keep it copacetic. Like if I see a little kid throwing a snowball, like what am I gonna say? Like right? Like if he starts putting rocks into it, or if he's starting like maliciously hitting me in the face, then I would be like, ma'am, can you tell your son not to crack me in the face with a snow? But like, come on, man. Like let's tone it down a bit. Like there's like call the kid. You calling the cops on the kid with the lemonade stand? Like really, you have nothing else better to do than to go viral calling the cops on a kid at a lemonade stand? Like what world are we living in right now that's like even something? You don't do that.
Do you feel people are scared of people who have fun?
I think, well, I'll put it this way. I think that I was talking to another podcast guest, and they said, because she was really big on positivity. She sells worms. She was from Canada. She is from Canada. She's still, with us. And she said she makes things to be positive. And she's like, you'd be surprised how many people think there's something wrong with her when she's smiling, right? Because people expect the stoic. You go through the grocery store, like people wave to people, say hi. People are like, what's wrong with you? Why are you waving at me? You're like, oh, like, dang, my bad. To your point, happiness has become like toxic.
Yeah.
It really is, because negativity sells, and, more importantly, like, I would not ask you as a guest or any guest on this show because I felt like letting off life grievances or wanting to listen to yours about how you've been wronged. That's unfair to your time and my time.
Yep.
Growth. Whatever you believe in, whatever way you want to move, this is all about how you made something special happen for yourself.
And we're still making it happen. The adventure is unfolding.
Yes.
And that's the fun of it. The bumps, the ups, the downs, and then the little wins. Holding on to those little wins and like really, you did that.
You talk to enough people in this world, they'll tell you a story that'll make you cry. So everybody, you know what I'm saying? So like, you talk to enough people, they'll, so it's important, to find those happy moments in life, cherish them, and really just cultivate it. And I want every guest to feel as welcome as I hope that you felt here. I'd love to have a follow-up with you about that because, again, this is what the Tron podcast is all about. You do great things. I want to follow back up with you.
Yeah, well, this has been fun. Thanks for having me. And hopefully next time I get to learn a little more about you, too. I love it. Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you one thing. It's the shortest book you'll ever read, right?
Don't sell yourself short.
Chapter 1, chapter 2, end, right? Like,
it's still unwritten. What's that Natasha Bedingfield song, Unwritten?
Right. No, hey, listen, I'm a living, breathing document. I had a Scarface poster once that said, every day above ground is a good day. So that's just the truth, so But Marisa Simonetti, I am so grateful for your time. You have been a blast. Keep throwing those snowballs with your son, and best of wishes on your future endeavors, okay?
Thanks, Rashad.
Anytime.